Please excuse my stumbling and bumbling with my words. I'm quite nervous doing this video because it's extremely serious. Thank you very much. I've left in my stumbles. Thanks, bye. Okay, this video is about the DWave and the Halowave. Now, some people are saying that it's not called a DWave and it's just that's like Nike or Adidas or something like that. It's a brand name. I don't even care. It's the one that's out. My brand name is Halowave. So I'm just going to stick with the DWave. Right, first off, I'm going to put up the Halowave, the CERN, and the DWave chip, because I don't believe in dragging videos out. I'm going to show you exactly what I mean straight away, and then I'm going to do all the explanation rather than have you sit here for 20 minutes wondering when I'm going to get to the actual subject. Okay, I did this back in May of 2015, but obviously I'd had everything since 2014. Right up front, the DWave works like your brain. Your brain automatically electrical impulses. When you see something, it checks the whole of your brain, which is why smells and things like that can trigger memories. Massive trying to explain this is quite difficult because all I got is pictures in my head, and it's a cascade, and it's not stopping lately, which is why I'm doing this video. So the DWave, I've got to start again, I'm being such a spaz. The DWave and how they explain it is an electrical strike within your brain, like a Lichtenberg figure, whatever they're called. That is how your brain works. That is now how the DWave chip works. And that's about as much as I can tell you on that, because the information is not coming in order, so I do apologize. But that's what you need to know about the DWave. The DWave works like your brain. Your brain automatically checks all knowledge in your head every time you open your eyes, which, as I said, is why you get memories from smells, deja vu, all that kind of thing. When God downloaded all this information into my head, I instantly knew everything. But the download of all the information took weeks to months. It was still kind of buzzing at 6 months, but the first 3 weeks, I instantly knew everything, and every single thing that I looked at, everything to do with that, activated inside my brain, and I knew exactly how it was made, what it was made from, all that kind of things. Not so much what it was made from, I'll not lie about that, sorry. I know exactly how it's made and the travel of energy through every single thing. And my whole purpose in showing everything for the last 3.5 years has been to show that picture on screen. The middle picture at the top, that is the Halowave. And God told me to show it in everything, which is what I have done. The key of David is in everything, because the key is an energy key which fits into matter. Okay, I'm glad I said that properly. So that middle picture is a shot from above, and as you can see, there's two inputs, the V at the top, then they cross each other, spin around, and come back into a circle. It can also be reverse engineered to do the opposite, which is what the DWave is. And so as you can see, we have an Lorentz force, either EM pulse or electrical strike coming out of the center on the right hand picture. And then there's an explanation of how atom orbital law is actually incorrect, and what I've put on there due to electrical law is absolutely correct according to a Lorentz Halowave. Okay, so that's the shape. That one there, right in the center. Now, a lot of people have told me that I don't barely know what I'm talking about. Well, that's funny, really, but it would appear that I've been talking about quantum physics the entire time that I've been doing this. And I already knew that. I knew that quantum tunneling was something that they'd put to something that actually is happening, but they believe that matter is doing it, which is, like, obviously ridiculous, because matter is dead and only energy moves matter, and energy moves through matter. So this is the reason why I understand exactly what the DWave has been doing. God has led me along through all the information that he has given me to lead me up to now. So, all right, I said I wasn't going to waffle, and it would appear that I have. So now here is also that picture in the middle of that screen. Let's see it where else it is. So now on screen we see top right is the DWave chip, which obviously the picture underneath is my Halowave, and underneath that is CERN. So I'd already drawn all this, and as you can see by the top right hand picture of the qubit chip, you will see that there is travel up and there is travel down in clockwise and counterclockwise. And so now if you look here on this picture that I did, jeepers, I don't know, 2014, can't move it right now, so we'll have a check in a second. And there we go, travel up and down, field arrangement. That is how our EM field is arranged. One goes up, one goes down. So now that I've pretty much proven that what I'm talking about is exactly what that D chip is talking about, now we're going to go through 2 videos of what they are saying the DWave chip can do. This is where it starts to get relatively biblical, and revelation times are almost upon us. And once I've finished this video, who knows what God will do next, because I'm the guy that he sent. So half the time is what I've been led to believe is what I do keeps bringing us that step closer. Now you might say, well, we're always stepping closer, but yeah, I'm stepping closer to the end and telling you what's about to happen because God has told me and showed me. So God is showing you before it happens, as God always does. Nobody is ever fooled. God never surprises anybody after the fact and says, told you that would happen, when he didn't. So what I'm about to say is what God has put into my head, so you can understand that the end is coming and that God has foretold the end, the beginning to the end. And this is the scientific reasons for what is about to happen, as well as the spiritual realms all getting involved. Everything is now involved, spirit and matter. All right, let's go through the videos. What the DWave proclaims to do is to bring through matter from another reality and show it to you in abundance, to say that we could perhaps live forever and that resources aren't running out. This is what Satan showed the Christ when he showed him all the kingdoms of the world and said, if you bow down to me, this is what I'll give you. This is what the inventors of the DWave have been promised, and they have fallen for it. And so they are going to try and open the pit and bring things through. That was the temptation of Christ. Matter, the luxuries of life. He denied it, as I've denied it with inventions and all sorts. So could have done some things, can't do them now, like, because the power has gone down, but I forced them away and said I don't want those. So the temptation of matter is now about to arrive upon the whole earth. So if this DWave chip does what it's supposed to, that they can grab resources from other realities, which are not other realities, I'm going to get to that. Many people will bow down to these supposed aliens that are going to arrive, who aren't aliens, they're demons. There's nothing alive in the universe. We've seen that it's all rock. So I don't care what these supposed aliens say. It's not aliens, it's demons, and they are offering you the same thing that Christ was offered. Turn this stone into a loaf of bread, and Jesus would not. Perhaps the DWave will, who knows? Either way, it's a temptation of matter, the fact that abundance might be coming. Okay.
So I'm going to talk about aliens. Okay, so my previous company was DWave. I'll just show you a couple things. We built what are still the world's only quantum computers that you can buy. That was a warm-up for Kindred. So Kindred is much, much, much more ambitious than DWave. And what Kindred is trying to do is build real AI.
Okay, straight off the bat, it won't be AI. It's going to be building a body for an AI. That is what they are doing, and that hopefully will be explained. They're not building AI.
So what you've heard about AI is not what we mean by AI. What we mean by AI is a software system that can do literally anything that a human can do. Literally anything. And obviously, computers are better at things than people in lots of different ways. So now imagine, not only can they do everything that a human can do, but they can do everything that the best human at any task could do better than them.
Okay, so that goes back to where I said the DWave is an electrical, it shoots out a pulse like a brain electricity, how it reads everything. Okay, so that's how it's going to work.
So imagine there was the mental Olympics of the 100-meter dash, and Usain Bolt is the fastest person. Now imagine that's some kind of a mental thing, like writing a novel or writing whatever. Imagine now that the thing is so much faster than Usain Bolt. Like, for example, it's a spaceship, yeah? It's still doing the same thing, but it's doing it so much better because we're limited, because we're people.
Now remember, it has access to the internet and all information. That's the only reason it would be any better, okay? The only reason. It has access to all the information and works like a brain.
So imagine this. Imagine for $10, let's say, I could build a machine, like a little robot that had fingers and eyes and all that, and it could do your job better than you, no matter what it is, and I could sell that to your employer for, say, $15 and make a profit, instead of having to pay you $100,000 a year. Now imagine that was true for every single job. So that's what we're talking about here, is a complete and utter transformative change.
So that would mean the elite would have all the money and the robots, and we would be the poor people with no jobs. So that's just the beginning.
We are right on the verge of that transition now.
And so everything that I've been saying has been leading up to this kind of moment as well. They are just about ready.
So what does this have to do with aliens? So Sam Harris, who I quite admire, is a very interesting guy, was reciting this parable at a TED Talk that he was giving, and it goes something like this. So say I'm the President of the United States. So I receive this message from the heavens. So my microwave dish, my SETI dish, finally captures something. And what it says is, in 50 years, or 13 years, we're coming to your planet. You got to be ready. Now just imagine what would happen if that happened. A super intelligent alien race beamed down a message to all of us Earthlings saying, we're coming July 13th, 2030, and boy, you better be ready because the mothership is landing right on the front lawn of the White House or wherever you wanted to land on that day. The amount of resources that would be marshaled to try to figure out what to do would encompass the whole world.
Okay, so he started off telling us about entities from other realities. Why is he now talking about a spaceship arriving? That's what I'd like to know, because he's not been talking about what's going to be happening. He was talking about other realities, the entities in the universe, and now he's talking about spaceships. So that's two different things, completely.
AI is just like that. So when this thing that I'm talking about happens, it's going to be exactly the thing that you're thinking about those super intelligent AIs. So the one thing I can tell you is they're not going to be like us. So alien means, different. These things that we're building are not going to be people. They might be really smart, they might be really good at all sorts of different things, but they're not going to be like us. They're going to be aliens.
Oh, so the straw man was the aliens to make people feel all, okay, it's just aliens. But it's not that. He's just said that we don't know what they're going to be good at. How does he not know what they're going to be good at? Think about that. So this AI is going to just arrive. It's not. They don't even know what they're going to do when they get here. They just have had promises of things. It's quite unbelievable to listen to, actually.
And they're going to be, I'm sorry to say, way smarter than every single person in this room in ways that we can't even comprehend. So this, of course, triggers a lot of alarm. One of the guys who talks about this is Elon, who says things like this, like, when you do this, beware, because you think, just like the guy in the stories, that when you do this, you're going to put that little guy in a pentagram.
Now, this is a tactic to try and disarm you by showing it to you as if it's ridiculous. But so far, they're building a brain. The DWave works like a brain firing. It's going to be connected to everything we know, And these entities that they're bringing through apparently are super intelligent and so can direct us.
And you're going to have your holy water out, and you're going to wave it at the thing, and by God, it's going to do exactly what you say and not one thing more, but it never works out that way. So this is an attitude that some are having, this emerging alarmism about the way this is going to go. But these words, demons, doesn't capture the essence of what's happening here.
So basically, it is a demon, but it's not capturing the essence of what's happening here. Because they'll try and make fun of the fact that they're summoning demons in a very short while. They are also playing on your knowledge of demons being these angry, devilly type things that run around screaming and ripping people to bits and raping and pillaging. You know what I mean? Because that's what you've been fed. So these are all going to be very sophisticated beings. Don't be fooled. Satan's creatures come as angels of light. They're not going to be showing you who they really are, just like the elite.
I don't know if any of you are turn-of-the-century weird fiction fans, but there's this guy named H.P. Lovecraft, who's a very famous American weird fiction author. And he espoused a view which is called cosmicism. And the essence of cosmicism is cosmic indifference. So what he was saying is basically, yes, there are these massively intelligent entities out there, but they're not good, they're not evil. They just don't give a shit about you even in the slightest. The same way that you don't care about an ant is the same way they're not going to care about you.
But he's already told us he's going to pull them through and stick them in a box, and they're going to do everybody's bidding. Have you ever heard anything so ridiculously foolish in your entire life? He's making out that these things now don't care about us, but we're going to put them in an AI box and we're all out of work, and what happens then? You think they're not going to eat us all?
And these things that we're summoning into the world now.
And so that is, many other people have pointed out a few of the things that I'm saying, but we'll get to that with all the D-chip stuff, sciencey stuff in the next video. Yeah, but you just heard him say, we are things we are summoning, so,
Are not demons, they're not evil, but they're more like the Lovecraftian great old ones. There are entities that are not necessarily going to be aligned with what we want.
And again, there's the rub. So if you're not aligned with what they want, your head's coming off, or you're getting eaten.
So this transition is really, really massively important for our entire species to navigate. And going back to that thing that Sam Harris was saying, nobody is paying attention. This thing is happening in the background while people bicker about politics and what's going to be in the healthcare plan in the U.S. And underneath it all is this rising tsunami that, if we're not careful, is going to wipe us all out.
And again, apparently it's our whole species who has to transition to accommodate these demons, or aliens as they like to call them. Otherwise there will be consequences. Yeah, that doesn't sound like a forced rule to me. And don't get me wrong, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a massive time of prosperity. And then the end will come, and all those that fell for that rubbish will be kicked out of the kingdom.
So, on that pleasant note, we're hiring people to try to make something like this happen.
Yes, they will get you to invite your own disaster, as is the way of Satan. He lets you do it. You should do this. You should eat that apple from the tree, and then you'll be super duper clever. You should let these aliens through because prosperity is coming with them. Oh, good grief. Lord save us all, please.
It's agnostic. It depends who wields it. If you want to have a say in how all this goes down, you can't sit on the sidelines.
And again, you just saw that. They jokingly wrote demonologists and then scribbled it out. But just like the elite and your Illuminati, they've put everything in front of you and they've said, no one's even looking at us. Do you understand how slightly spiritually serious this is? I do hope so. Okay, now we're going to run through a second video, which is equally unbelievable. And I'll explain things as we go.
Hey, everybody. So I'm going to I'm going to tell you a crazy but true story about the nature of your universe. So you may have heard this word quantum computing. It's often, people have the misconception that it's some kind of newfangled supercomputer. It's decidedly not that. Quantum computers allow us to access hidden features of nature, new dimensions, and if we can access these sort of hidden dimensions at scale, we could have unimaginable computing power.
Okay, so this guy's already talking about other realities and things you've never heard of, and the other guy was talking about aliens. So we've got entities and matter being spoken of about now.
So what do we do? Well, there are resources that we humans have yet to tap into that are vast. At the beginning of the 20th century, there was something called quantum theory. People were looking at the dynamics of atoms and molecules, and they found that those atoms and molecules behave nothing like what you experience at macroscopic scales. Electrons aren't little particles that go around in orbits. They found really bizarre phenomenon. The theory to explain that, called quantum theory, explains everything that we know, other than Einstein's general relativity and gravity.
So right there, you know that Einstein was either a liar or a fool, or you've been taught nonsense for the past 100 years. Do you understand that? All his science is correct, as is all mine. And people shout at me saying, no, it doesn't do this, and Einstein's relativity, and all this other nonsense that you've been taught. So he's just said there, quantum theory explains everything, which is what I've been doing, it would apparently seem. It explains everything except general relativity and all Einstein's rubbish. So there you go. Now you know you've been taught crap because this is happening now.
So the structure of matter and radiation and almost everything you experience is explained by this theory. And when this theory allowed for what I call the first quantum revolution, it allowed us to understand why the stars shine. It allowed us to sequence DNA and usher in the age of molecular biology. It ushered in the entire semiconductor revolution with the invention of transistors and semiconductors, lasers, nanotechnology, nuclear energy. All of that was enabled by this original understanding. The interesting thing, though, is that equation down there, the Schrödinger equation, people used it, but they didn't necessarily take seriously what it said about the world. So you see there a picture of what's called Schrödinger's cat, where you have a cat that's both alive and dead at the same time. And you hear about these strange quantum phenomenon. But basically what people did is kind of ignore the strangeness for about 50 years. I called it the shut up and calculate philosophy. They used it to develop all kinds of technology, but they didn't take seriously the strangest effects that this theory predict. If you're a classical you, you're going to try one path, that didn't work, come back, and you could imagine it taking many, many lifetimes to get through a billion or never. But what if the same physical you could travel all those paths simultaneously? Electrons, in fact, do this. But there's another quality that you need. If all of these different selves in these parallel streams of reality can talk to each other and collaborate, they could all get out.
So if they all talk to each other and collaborate, they can all get out. See where it's going.
Right? So you have to be able to, coherent evolution is when these paths can talk. So I'll bring that up later. Another effect is quantum tunneling, wherein I can have an object on one side of an impenetrable barrier, and it will disappear and appear on the other side of that wall. That's another way that you could escape and explore domains that would otherwise be forbidden to you as a classical entity.
So you can get through an impenetrable barrier, can you? You mean like the cage in the pit that's holding back the demons, as it is described in the Bible? And the Bible states an angel was given the key to the abyss.
So when people started thinking about how to engineer systems based on this kind of quantum dynamics, you want to build it out of fundamental elements to make the engineering easier. So there's something called qubits. So bits, what you're all used to, it's a 0 or 1, basically a switch that can be on or off. But what if I could build a device that could be in two possibilities simultaneously and then concatenate them into an array?
Well, then you would have a brain that fires at everything and only pulls in the information that you just asked for.
So here you see each one of those little rings represents some object that can be in two states at once. The next object's in two states. So when you concatenate them, you get 4 possibilities, and then 8, 16, 32, etc. And the number of possibilities you could realize in a system of such quantum objects blows up exponentially, just like the problem sets that we want to solve as a civilization.
But also understand the underlying thing he just said. It's about something being there and something not being there. So right now, there's nothing there, but they're going to put something there. Do you understand? It's like a phase shift in reality. Two vortices, in phase, in frequency, whatever the words are, connection, something that wasn't there but exists somewhere else is now there.
People started building systems that could do this out of microscopic constituents in the 80s. And Dave Wineland and the group at NIST won the Nobel Prize, I think, last year for exactly this. You can see there a cartoon. There's a number of atoms. They're trapped in, it's a cartoon of some atoms trapped in a vacuum in an electromagnetic trap, and demonstrated that you could factor a large number into its prime constituents, a 200-digit number, instead of 3 billion years on massive classical computers, 1 second on this quantum computer. Why did that excite everybody? Because being able to factor large numbers means you can break our most secure form of encryption called RSA. So this is when everybody went crazy, NSA, DOD, you could undermine our civilization with these things.
And I do believe we see our civilization being undermined.
And to put it the way David Deutsch, the progenitor of this field, quantum computation will be the first technology that allows a useful task to be formed in collaboration between parallel universes.
So again, it's without consent. Again, it's between apparently parallel universes. You know, they haven't read a book that says there's people chained in a electromagnetic pit, but they do believe in other realities. So, you know, they keep telling us about the great resources that are going to come out of this. This is the temptation of the matter to get everybody involved.
So how cool is that? Now, there's an interesting quandary though. Why is it if the universe at this microscopic scale behaves that way and you're built out of those constituents, you're not doing that? This also wasn't understood until the 80s and 90s, and it's a process called decoherence. So you can see a little picture there where you have the quantum dynamics, where there's the alive and dead cat and everything's kind of fuzzy and living out multiple possibilities, and then our classical reality. And where's the border, and why is there one? Well, there you see a strip of film representing two realities, and when the two pieces of film are stuck together, we call that coherent evolution. They can talk to each other. What happens is, for macroscopic systems like this microphone, the environment that's interacting with this microphone, the air molecules bounding into it, the sound waves, the fact that I'm holding it with my hand, and the vibrations, all those interactions, when you put it into those equations, show that the interactions with the environments will pull the parallel streams apart so that they can't collaborate anymore, and therefore you lose the power of those disparate experiences.
And so all the demons have been placed in a place of darkness until the day of the Lord, as it says in the Bible. So where is that darkness? Well, it's not in the light, and we're in the light, so they've got to be in the darkness, which is it's like a door between things that should be touching. It's the veil, basically, and they're gonna break through.
So what does that immediately make you understand? If I could get rid of the environmental influences to pull the streams apart, I might be able to see quantum mechanics at macroscopic scales in systems I can engineer.
And everything that he's about to talk about is electromagnetic and electrical dead spots. Basically, he's going to make this door out of electricity and electromagnetism, which is what I said years ago. When Jesus arrives and the gates open, Jesus is an electromagnetic door. He's the door opener. He opens the electromagnetic door, and off we go. It's like Doctor Who's TARDIS when you open the doors and there's a different reality inside, because it's a space between. What more can I say? That's the two pieces of film he was just talking about that you pull apart. When you touch them together, a door appears.
That was achieved in 2000. So they took a ring of metal, specifically a superconductor. They put it in an ultra-high vacuum at ultra-low temperatures, radiation shield it and magnetic shield it, and if you get it just right, they were able to put this in a state where an electrical current, all the electrical current would travel clockwise, and all the electrical current travels counterclockwise simultaneously.
Aha! And there it is, the inverted reflection of the halo wave. Because the halo wave, I've said, is my understanding of it, given to me by God in visions in 2014 for 3 weeks, day and night, was that electricity was in the center, and then there was an electromagnetic field that goes clockwise and counterclockwise. Theirs, of course, is electromagnetism in the middle, which creates an Ouroboros ring, which is except theirs is electrical. So they have an electrical clockwise and an electrical counterclockwise, and that creates an EM vortex, whereas the halo wave is an electrical vortex that then creates an electromagnetic EM halo wave. So the DWave is an electrical halo wave that creates an EM vortex. See how it's reflected and inverted? It's doing something else. So I have the key of David, and I've shown it in everything because it's in everything. They now have the key to the abyss, which is basically a key and a door. So you got the halo wave plus the D wave. Now you have a connection, and they've built it because the spirit enters matter and shows matter and brings matter into creation. Whereas the D wave is matter that's going to bring spirit into our world, into creation. But it's not into creation, it's just bringing it through. So it does the opposite of the halo wave. The halo wave is spirit that goes into matter. This is matter that is bringing out spirit. All right.
And this was done at SUNY State University in New York in 2000. And on the New York Times article, it said, Schrodinger's cat lives, because this is a macroscopic object doing two mutually exclusive things simultaneously. The other thing about this object that's so nice is you can build qubits out of it.
And there we see the inverted reflected halo wave, exactly the same shape and exactly the same shape as CERN.
So current going one way gives you a little magnetic field pointing up. Current going the other way gives you a magnetic field pointing down.
And so that's what I drew November 7th, 2016. I decided it was time to draw all kinds of modes of travel, and all based upon Fibonacci travel, which of course is electrical travel and electrical vortex travel. So there we have it. One up, one down.
And I can use those to encode a 0 and 1. And if I can put it into this funny quantum state, it's that fundamental object that I can build multiple possibilities of at scale.
And I've always said that at either end of the double helix vortex, one is a point and one is a hole. So one is a 1 and one is a 0. One is pushing matter and one is pulling matter.
But that little ring that I showed you is macroscopic, and you can make it by etching a metal like you do in a standard CMOS process. And my company, DWave, is doing exactly that. We've built a scalable technology based on those kinds of rings, concatenated together with a complex control infrastructure made out of superconducting circuits. And we also picked a model of quantum computing most people weren't considering that was developed at MIT that's much less sensitive to that environmental pulling apart of the parallel streams.
So as you've heard, they've already done it, which means they are receiving information from another reality, which is in fact the pit.
So the other thing is, when looking at all the activity in the world, there aren't so many Bell Labs anymore. And I think most of the innovation is going on in small companies. I used to run a DARPA project, and then before that I was in a big company doing quantum computing. And I said, look, we're going to go out, form a small company, just like Celera Genomics, doing the human genome sequence, SpaceX, commercial space travel. There are small companies even working on fusion reactors now. You get the best and brightest people together. You're lean, you're fast, you're bureaucracy free, and you'll get the best people, and you're willing to take big risks.
Big risks, huh? And no rules. You all know what that means. So this is all real science that's been going on behind the supposed mainstream shit that you keep being fed. Here's a pretty astronomy picture from Hubble. Who cares? This is what's happening in science now.
The quantum age is upon us. And if you want to be a leader in the field, you can't ignore this anymore. It used to be thought that these quantum technologies were 50 or 100 years out. Now we're seeing groups from all over the world pursuing this because it's the game of the century. NASA and Google bought one of our systems. It's located at NASA Ames. We have Lockheed and USC Information Science Institute that now have early generations of our quantum processors, are doing basic physics as well as developing applications for a whole range of applications.
So Google's got one, and earlier he was telling us that these machines could subvert the whole of humanity. Isn't that funny? And also he's belching on about how fantastic it's all going to be again. Here's the carrot and the stick right over the cliff.
This is a picture of a unit cell of a chip. So there you see the little object that can have spin up or spin down. You can see the real object is this extended, that red line is circling the real qubit, which is a big, long, skinny guy. Where they cross, they interact.
Strangely enough, I drew this June the 11th, 2016, where I talk about the door is electrical, the door is Jesus, Jesus is electrical, and that's a pentagon of 10 spins, which opens the door. All right.
And what happens is we can encode into our chip, we can create what's called an energy landscape that represents the space of all possibilities that we want to explore. The lowest valley of this energy landscape, of this interacting spin system, is the answer to your problem. You know, how do I arrange the elements of these complex network to optimize some feature that I'm interested in? And now if you were a classical spin system, people have built, you know, you can have spin systems that are classical. If I was in that landscape, so each point of that landscape is a different configuration, I'd be somewhere, so you're in that landscape, and I start walking around. And you could see if you had 2 to the 500th hills and valleys, how long it would take you to explore that landscape. If you're behaving quantum mechanically, it would be as if you had a vast army going out in all directions, and not only can they explore simultaneously that landscape, but they can talk to each other through this quantum entanglement where they know what the other one's experiencing.
This again goes back to my visions where I instantly knew every single thing in the universe, and I'm just not kidding about that, and I say that in my testimony video. I instantly knew everything, and that's what this does. So these machines aren't going to know everything. They are, but they're not. And as far as I'm concerned, God's going to overturn everything they've done. But yeah, these things are going to know everything because of being higher energy. And it's why they've been building all these carbon nanomaterials to try and help encase these entities. I said that months ago, maybe years ago, that they were all this new technology into material science is all to clothe the king of the demons when he arrives, because he hasn't got a body anymore because of the universal voltage drop, so we have to build something that will contain it. Oh yeah, ain't no aliens coming.
We have a very high rate of discovery and innovation. Between our last 2 processor generations, in 2 years, we didn't have a factor of 2. We had a factor of 300,000 in performance gain as we scaled up our qubits and infrastructure. And we've been on a Moore's Law-like trajectory since 2002, so very rapid rate of innovation. And to give you perspective, I think we're at a point in human history. It's not just quantum computing. There's also quantum communications, where people are creating these secure keys. There's quantum teleportation, wherein you can have information at one location that disappears, appears at a remote location without a signal being sent.
So yeah, it all seems terribly wonderful, doesn't it? But they've already admitted that they're talking to things, and it's already going, and it's an exponential rise, which means it's going to happen so fast that you're not even going to believe it. But basically, if they can bring resources through, where are they bringing them from? They can sit there and say it's another reality. But if it's not another reality, let's just say we were pulling resources from the core, which have been pulled in by electrical gravity. What happens when you start to empty out the center of the planet? Maybe that'll go on for several years, and then a collapse happens, and that's the revelation damage that is to occur due to not enough matter and far too much energy in the core. What I do know is what they're doing is the inverse reflection of the Halowave, which means they have created a doorway. I don't know what else to tell you except the next 10 years going to be quite exciting indeed, watching revelation times unfold. And as they've said, nobody is paying attention. They are right out there, but the governments have hidden them. And the science has hidden them as if it's some kind of woo science or really expensive science or whatever it is. It's never in the paper. It's never anywhere. And yet Google and NASA have got one of these machines, and apparently there's a hell of a lot of these machines on the planet. So as I've said before, if they can actually manage to pull matter through, or a being through, into their little AI box that they tell us is then going to become AI, when they even don't know what they're even putting in it. Once they do that, then CERN will be given the exact same frequency code, and it will do the same thing, won't it? I would assume so, because it's working exactly the same way. All right, thanks very much. I've probably got more to say on it, but unfortunately, half the time, all the really, really good stuff to say arrives when I'm in the car, and I don't have any way to record it. So the main purpose of this video was to show you that, yeah, when the Bible says the key to the abyss was given to an angel so he could unlock it, that was how the prophets saw it. I've seen differently the science way, because that was the only way that they could understand it. The way that I've understood it is that God's given it to me because we live in a science world. And so I've explained the door and the key, and when the key goes into the door, well, spirit and matter can come out. When you link it to this other place, which I believe is the place of darkness that has been reserved for the devil and his angels before all hell breaks loose. Yeah, this is all about how the hordes are going to be released. And they're going to be released via this DWave CERN machine. All right, thanks very much. My name is Lee. I follow the Christ. And it was really difficult to do this video. Don't know why. Thanks, Lord. Bye.